And then chapter 4, once also is from the call Hong Kong to defeat Japan. Chapter 4, Hong Kong, the colony and its defenses. Hong Kong is located on an island 90 miles south of Canton, just off the Chinese mainland. How many kilometers is that? The island of Hong Kong is 11 miles long and average 3 miles wide. How many kilometers is that? I go by the metric system. I don't like the imperial system. About 29 square miles. How many square kilometers is that? It was occupied by the British in 1841 and had been ruled by a British governor backed by the British Army for 100 years before we arrived in Hong Kong. It is situated below the Tropic of Cancer and is subtropical. The summer months are hot and humid. The winter months are somewhat cooler. Tropically, Hong Kong Island is characterized by steep granite mountains that rise above from the sea, our highest of which rises 1,800 feet above sea level. There is virtually no flat land anywhere on the island, and the city of Victoria is on the northern slope of the mountains. Hong Kong has one two-lane highway that circles the island at sea level. Hong Kong Harbor between the cities of Victoria and Kowloon on the mainland is one of the finest natural harbors and the or in Southeast Asia is more politically correct. That was kind of racist. They should have said Southeast Asia. Oh my gosh, this book is so politically incorrect. Oh my god. And by the 1930s had become one of the busiest of the world, as about one half of all mainland China's trade funneled through this port. Population in 1941 was nearly 2 million, mostly Chinese, most of whom were British citizens by birth. For the defense of Hong Kong, the British garrison had 5 armored, outmodeled, obsolete RAF airplanes and ancient destroyers, some last century gunboats, and some wooden hull torpedo boats. The island's artillery armament was small in number. Ammunition stocks were suitable for sustainable defense. No modern radio location ever counterparties. 5 of those were the Royal Scouts and the Middlesex Regiment were accompanied by 2 regiments of the British Indian Army. The 711 outputs the 214 Pendomdas. To this was added a small force of Hong Kong volunteer militia, 3 which mortared but had ammunition for only a little more than 5 minutes of attempting firing. In this late fall of 1940, the Chiefs of Staff of the British Army, after studying the situation back during Great Britain and Asia, to the mainland that Hong Kong should be reinforced because it could not be revealed or expected to withstand a prolonged siege. At the same time, the governor of Hong Kong, Sir Geoffrey Norris, requested a complete withdrawal of all British forces from Hong Kong because he believed it could not be successfully defended. In considering the matter of further reinforcements, Hong Kong, Winston Churchill was indeed earlier coming opposed to such an idea. These were the official views of Governor of Hong Kong to the British Chiefs of Staff and the Prime Minister of England. Only some 9 months before Canada decided to send Sea Force to Hong Kong. When Sea Force embarked at Vancouver for Hong Kong, it sailed without its transport or artillery or armored vehicles of any kind. It had a few 3-inch motors but little 3-inch ammunition we were promised that this essential armament and product would follow us by ship at a later date. It never arrived. As we look at the military catastrophe, we consider the criminal views of Prime Minister Churchill, the Governor of Hong Kong, and the British Chiefs of Staff with reinforcements to reinforce a hopeless cause. We can only wonder at the defense of the Canadian War Cabinet, why the force of this send in such a hurry to send a Canadian force to Hong Kong. If they had to send a force to Hong Kong, why did a force that, because of its guard and garrison duties, did not have the training to prepare for cabinet before it comes to by a powerful legendary enemy? These questions have never been answered, but Canadian historians have assured me that we were sent to Hong Kong for purely political reasons to answer the government who claimed that 26 months after declaring war on Germany, Canadian soldiers had not fired a single shot in anger. When I arrived in Hong Kong and began to appraise the British plan of defense and the resources available to implement them, I began to wonder. First of all, from a tactical viewpoint, this seemed to be no plan to fortify and occupy the high ground, the center of the mountain island. The next major fact was that Hong Kong fresh water plus 98% of its food for a population of over 1 million came from the mainland, which supply could easily be cut off by an invader who came by land. There was no airport, military or civilian on the island. Key Tak Airport was on the mainland, easily made available to an invader from the land, but denied to us. The local British commander, Major General Maudsley, seemed to believe that the present British garrison would be quite to defend the extensive coastline, while his superiors in London felt that an adequate defense would require at least another full division. The British believed the Japanese soldier was inferior. We heard from that the Japanese had very poor eyesight and that they couldn't shoot infantry weapons accurately, and that their pilots, due to the same optical weakness, couldn't put their bombs on target. Above all, not to worry, the Japanese couldn't fight at night. Of all the mistakes Machiavelli made, his controversial basic assumption of Japanese lack of military skill, general appearance of the most serious one top commanders of their enemy, trouble for the soldiers below, is not long in coming, as we were soon to find out the Japanese army was especially trained to attack and fight at night. Before long, I could see that if the Japanese attacked, since our naval forces had been withdrawn to Singapore, we could not be supplied, we could not be reinforced, and we could not be evacuated. This was not Dunkirk on the English Channel, a few miles from England. Hong Kong was an isolated, unprepared military death trap. The Japanese attacked. We had two options. We could die on the battlefield or become prisoners of war. Japanese, who was not even a signatory to the Geneva Convention on the treatment of prisoners of war. I can just imagine the feelings of our veteran senior officers, the compact and began to assist the military situation that now forced. If I at my level could see the defense problems, even then that they saw evident parental eyes, I can only guess that our officers hoped the Japanese would not attack Hong Kong and that we would be transferred to the European theater of war when it was appropriate to do so. I suspect my commander, Major Parker, shared my anxiety about our vulnerability from the high ground because after we had been in Hong Kong for a week or so, he gave me a large map of the island and instructed me to take some of my men and climb up to the high ground above Ting Tam Tuk River and explore and mark on the map the route that could be followed from Mount Butler where to the highway below Adjing. We assembled and equipped with compasses, binoculars, and instructions, climbed up to the elevation required and surveyed and marked the route we could follow to Adrian and the highway to the west. We were careful to mark all water transmitters, barbed wire, and any pillboxes or defenses work we came across at the end of the reconnaissance. I went over the findings of Major Parker in detail. The answer to his questions concerning anything that would deter an enemy from moving across the same route from Mount Butler. We summed up as practically nothing. We never saw a single British soldier or any serious man-made intended to an invading force move west from Mount Butler to Edinburgh. Within a few weeks that and exactly what the 229th Japanese Regiment did to split the island defense force in two and find and kill Brigadier Larson, our Canadian Brigade training at his HQ at Wong Ning Kung Kak. Major Parker had suggested that the high ground from Mount Butler east to Se Wong. Together, we joined the route teams at a meeting in Company HQ and platoon commanders and a second in command, while Parker never expressed his thoughts and my expression to sense deep concern about the information as I understood it. General Macleod, the British officer commanding the forces of Hong Kong, simply did not share our concern with respect to the untoward nature of the island high ground. The failure to consider the importance of the high ground became one of the first issues of tension and serious disagreement between the British and Canadian high commands at Hong Kong. Of course, British and Canadian high commands at Hong Kong, of course, even if Rebel had been pursued of the merits of Canadian argument, it was too late to do anything about it anyway. At the same time, our senior officers at Hong Kong assessed the threat to their command. They were severely handicapped both at Hong Kong and at headquarters in Ottawa because of their lack of financial intelligence, lack of support of the size, power, and effectiveness of battle-tested Japanese armed forces who had been fighting in China since 1937. Completing with an assessment of the poor quality was led to a military disaster and the elimination of Allied forces at Hong Kong. This is the end of chapter 4, and the ending of day 4 out of the 11 Days of Remembrance. I thank the veterans who fought in the First World War and Second World War so I could be free. I'll read chapter 5 tomorrow, and I say thank you to the veterans so I can do all stuff freely, and so I can make these YouTube videos.